Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our Talking Tuesdays. My name is Tanvi Sharma, and our topic for today is parent-infant pathway. It's in fact the first in our series of Know Your Baby. We just concluded our series on the journey of the embryo last week, and thank you so much for appreciating the content that we put together for the journey of the embryo, and we were surprised ourselves with the feedback that we got. So I'm just going to check if Divya is there. Right, she's here, and I'm just now. Hi, Divya.
Hi, Tanvi. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Sorry, it took me a bit of time to get connected, but bang at 12, the internet was up and running.
I can see people waving at us, so I'm just going to
Yeah.
back.
Hi, Neha.
So, should we go?
Yes, please.
So, we took our time talking about the sentient baby. We took our time talking about the baby in utero. And we wondered if people knew that information, and we got some feedback. Some of them knew it. Some of them said, wow, that was mind-boggling. I loved it. And then, it got me thinking to look at some of the stuff of after the baby is born, because that's an important point too.
True.
And so I found from a website called 023.org, which a lot of us may know about. And in 2009, they had set out a survey with the Heart Foundation, HART Foundation. And they said that they wanted to find some questions about how parents thought about their children's emotional development. So they said some very interesting questions. Of course, there was a whole section on, economics and childcare, because it's based out of US. But I want to pull out just a few numbers from there, just to take off on this particular topic about parent-infant pathways. So I'm going to get there, but I just want to read some of the research that we found. And they took about a survey of about 1,615 parents between the age of 36 months, 0 to 36 months, so 0 to 3 years. And then they said that, do you think your child can child feel sadness or fear? And at what age do they feel it? And, 7 out of 10 people thought that they felt it later than 6 months. And some of them said even as high as, say, 3 to 5 years or older. So they say your child doesn't feel sad or doesn't feel fear between 3 to 5 years or older. And a lot of people thought that. And then they asked a question, which was, can child sense if a parent's angry or sad and can be affected by moods? And that too, a lot of people thought that 2-year or older could feel that. Anything younger, they didn't really quite know what was going on. Then, can the child feel good or bad about themselves? And this is an interesting thing, because, self-worth. How do we see self-worth, self-esteem, self-value? And of course, we know later in life it matters. But so they say that 50% people thought that they achieve it by about 2 years. And some of them said even older than 5 years. And then last, they said that children can have control over their emotions, such as not having a tantrum when frustrated. And a lot of people thought that children can control their emotion early. So they cannot feel sad or fear, but they can control their emotions. So it made me think what kind of expectations we have from our children. And not to speak that we've never spoken of what expectations they may have from us. And so parent-infant pathways is information around some of the things that we can know about children And also learning the communication with children in terms of, not in terms of can I talk to them, but in terms of what are they saying. And it's interesting that every movement, every cry, every pattern that we see is actually communication from them. And so we are going to talk about this in specific pathways. And to give due credit, this is something that is taught in the University of Minnesota as parent-infant pathways and is used in public health by childbirth educators, by so many different people to offer this information to parents so that they can read their children's cues easily. And all the other things that we ask, like, should I swaddle my child? Should I rock my child? How much tummy time? This is some information that you may have so that you can begin to interact, parent, communicate, connect, attune, listen to, and be heard. They are not separate from each other. You know, when you care for your child, that is parenting. So as you are, say, changing a nappy or a diaper, and you're making eye contact, and you are talking to the baby, and you're talking about maybe poo-poo. There are so many different things that are happening in that 5-minute contact. A, mother is there. B, eye contact, and we will talk about that, about social engagement. C, listening to the child's cry and responding is adding a layer of their self-worth, that they are important, that you care. And then a little bit of education about poo-poo. And all of that is happening in that one interaction. So on one side, we have parents who are buying baby Einstein, showing babies flashcards, educating them. And on their side, we have this complete disconnect from what the need of the baby was. So we are going to, in the next few weeks, talk about the different pathways, which includes crying as well. What does it mean? What are the competencies that the baby has? The baby is born with certain competencies, like what can they hear, what can they see, what does it mean to them to have these inputs? And we've talked that about in our section on prenatal. But when they are born, after they are born, at what age? And we are going to talk about the really newborn period, which is early infancy, when you're getting your baby home, like a continuity to where the competencies were, what were being developed, and how will they play out in the world. And we are not even going to go to a time where they can sit and make eye contact and talk, because by that time, most parents are already attuned, hopefully. But before that, if we can have them tuning in, that would be an amazing thing to do. So parent-infant pathways are the different ways that our babies, newborns, will communicate with us. We will also talk about, they have certain expectations. Now, what is their expectations and what is our approach to it? Simple example. Baby cries, and every time the baby cries, the mother instinctively jumps up to at least see the baby. And most women will say, oh, what happened? Whatever their language is, they'll say, oh, what happened, baby? I'm here. That's a simple reassurance, but it'll come automatically. Many moms will actually reach out and touch the baby. And if the baby continues to cry, they will lift the baby. So this is not something that you can learn. Research says that if you pick up a crying baby in 90 seconds, they will stop crying. This doesn't mean that you are on high alert waiting for the baby to cry and jump and pick the baby up. This simply means that you are paying attention, and if not picking up the baby, you have started a verbal conversation that you are not alone, I am here with you. And as you pick the baby up, you are going to then check, everybody has their mental checker. This was mine, to see what is the time, how long the baby has been asleep, is he wet? So my older one was a boy, so I'm using the word he. Is he wet? Poop, pee? Then, if those are the simple things that have not been met, hunger and discomfort, is he cold? Is he bored? So I had a sequence of things that told me what may have been wrong, why he cried out for me. And sometimes it was nothing, it just needed a little reassurance. And But the biggest advice you're getting around picking up the baby when he's crying is don't pick up the baby. He will get used to it. Which is such a counterproductive advice. Because your 2-day-old, 4-day-old, 3-week-old, 6-week-old has been carried around for 9 months.
Correct.
You
He
know,
was literally in a godi.
Yes. So one of the phrases used for pregnancy is she's carrying the baby. Literally. It's one of the metaphors for pregnancy.
Correct.
She's with child. She's carrying a child. That she's carrying the child low or high or whatever she's carrying. But you're carrying the baby. So in the baby's experience, all he knows is to be held and carried all the time. And birth changes that because now it's not 24/7. And so now the baby is having a new experience without a context or without a reassurance of lying flat on his back, which he has never done or she has never done because they're curled up. The spaciousness around them, because womb is a very space efficient place where everything is compacted in. Then they have sounds have changed, patterns have changed, warmth have changed. So much of the baby's surrounding has changed that it is hard to believe that this tiny little being who knows only one way is going to start making sense of everything else on day one. So maybe he's trying to make sure you're there. Maybe she's trying to, comfort. Maybe she's hungry. But unless you don't attend to it, what are you doing? And if you were to just step away from the whole idea of, usko godi ka aadat ho gaya. I've never seen a 21-year-old man sitting next to his mother in the godi. But anyways, that's me. Maybe people have. And they are worried that this person will become 40 years old and not leave the mother. And I wonder if 40-year-olds mothers are happy that my son is not leaving me. That's the other side of the same coin. But at this point, the baby's expectation, need, and want are the same. I'm alone. Am I safe? And so by attending to that, that is why research says in 90 seconds, the baby will keep quiet because the baby's cry was a communication. And that has been heard. So no need to keep shouting. And on the other side, we are also giving him a constant messaging that you're not alone, that you're safe, that there is someone who cares, that you matter. And when we keep saying that, talk about self-worth coming from there. If you see the whole 20th century psychologists, a large part of psychological issues have been attributed to childhood. And if you look at the research, that childhood is really early childhood. That is why we have the 0 to 3 movement and all of that. So this is the point in life, especially early infancy, newborn period and really early months, where we think that the baby knows nothing, understands nothing, and yet will get disciplined if we don't pick him up. And these are two really diametrically opposite ideas, which we blindly believe. So parent-infant pathways are in understanding of how the baby is communicating, what the baby's capacities are, what the baby's needs may be. And these are non-negotiable because they cannot at that age do more than that. And so on and so forth. So we have, the program itself lists out 7 different pathways, which gives us an insight to the baby, and we want to take them one by one. But what is interesting is that they said that who do people take their information from? And that's a very interesting thing. So, the research said that majority of people take information from their family. Whether it's about feeding, whether it's about formula, whether it's about co-sleeping, whether it's about holding the baby, whatever the ideas about parenting are, people take from family. Then healthcare professionals who are doctors. So let's just deconstruct that for a moment and say, how many doctors have looked at a perfectly healthy human being or baby? And for how long in their education have they been interacting with healthy, normal newborns? Let's talk about pediatricians. So what do they know? They know milestones. They know growth charts. They know disease. They know medication. They know so much, but do they know how normal babies behave? And I'll give you an example of this. So most pediatricians will say that babies can cry between 2 to 6 hours a day. That's normal. But Korean perinatal psychology and trauma research says that babies cry only half an hour a day, normal babies. And that is to communicate. And when you meet that need, they don't cry. Their cry always means something. But in the medical world, because they can't see the pathology of their crying, because they don't think babies have memories, they don't think they are recapitulating their births or other traumas from prenatal period, they put their crying to saying, oh, that's normal. And this disparity does not allow parents who want to meet their baby's needs to go ahead and meet them. Because they think, oh, the baby's crying, it's normal. And they'd go as far as to say that you can, give the baby to somebody else if you're feeling panic, which is a great, a suggestion. But they are never looking into the cause. They are always looking at the symptoms. So sometimes, this information can change the way you might want to start parenting your child. And that's an important aspect as well. So, parent-infant pathways supports that. Somebody once I was teaching this course to a young parent and they used it later. They said something very interesting. They said, Divya, we got our child's specific, really individualized manual by having a broad framework and then looking at our child and matching it up and experiencing it. We were able to make a manual for our child. And they could recognize the cry of the baby. This is for susu, this is for potty, this is for hunger, this is for pain, in less than 3 weeks. So she would hear him cry and she would say, oh, this is the problem. For majority of things. And, most people would look at a child and say, oh, why doesn't this thing come with a manual? Because each baby is different. But we are still human. So we have a broad framework. And as we meet that framework, we begin to express our really fundamental qualities. And all babies are born with qualities of empathy, compassion, love, and trust. Till we betray it. Till we teach them otherwise. I trust my mother will look after me till she doesn't pick me up when I cry. And she's standing there looking at me. What is it? If that would have to happen to me, what would it tell me? I'm crying, I'm hurt, something is wrong, I cannot help myself, and Tanvi is there looking at me. But she's not saying anything and she's not doing anything. So we are interacting with the baby. Another interesting phenomena that I see in young parents is that they feel that baby care is a one-way process. I have to do this, and this for the baby, and then it's good. And this one-way process has been given from outside. We have so many well-wishers who are telling us, just do this, and that's all you need to do. So there's a lot of I have to do rather than what is happening between us. So I want to transpose that idea to your marriage. You're getting married. And 6 of your best friends tell you, with your husband, you have to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 things. That's it. And then you're happy marriage. Does that work? Because your marriage is a relationship between you and another person. And you have to find your unique dynamic for it.
Correct.
Because your husband is not like everybody other man and he's a unique personality. Therefore, there is a unique dynamic. And the same is true for the baby. And yet we have put this little person who has an unspoken voice in a box and labeled it and ticked it. And somehow I feel that could be one of the reasons it is so easy to outsource care for your child. Because you feel that if these things can be done, then your child's needs are met. So parent-infant pathways will also explore a relational value. So we're going to talk about what the babies need, what they're capable of, how we are meeting those needs, what we can do to support their competencies, and what does an interaction look like. And that would be a true parent-infant pathway. A pathway goes both ways, not one way. So these are some of the key points that I wanted to bring up, what we mean by this. When we talk about baby care classes, they're all about what you can do. But really, that's not so important. It is. It has its own place. But that skill will come automatically as you work with your child. But if you get to know your child, and believe me, your child knows you because they're coming from inside, they are privy to you. When you meet that bond on the outside, you might begin to know so many different things. Yeah. Okay.
So we have a question, and it says, what about over-responding to baby's discomfort? Sometimes being okay with his discomfort is also needed. You can't always make it okay.
Okay. So this is exactly the question they say. Okay, when do you think they can support their own emotional selves? Right? Now, again, look at the question being asked. It's a context in time. What age would you be okay with discomfort? That is a question you can only understand because it goes hand in hand with what the child's competency is. When the baby is hungry, newborn baby is hungry, and it's not yet time because some people schedule or some doctors tell you to schedule, how do you explain to a hungry baby that it's not time for food? But as that child grows up, can we modulate hunger? So if you have that understanding, though parent-infant pathways isn't about an older child, but think of it this way. If you are responding to needs of the baby and a day you are delayed, you will hear the cry escalate. And at some point you will know, because you know your baby's cry, that this is too much. That's your buffer. But can I teach that to you? That's the question. Take the same and transpose it to marriage, because that will give you a context. For some people, some men might want to come and spend some time together. Some people like to go to holidays together. Some people are okay with a little bit more separation. Doula's husbands are okay with us staying out in the night. Tolerance. So either you've developed that tolerance, were they always ready? Maybe not. I'll give you a personal example. When I first started working, and my husband knew that I loved my work, he would drive me to drop me to the hospital from Noida to Delhi for about a year and a half, maybe 2 years.
Which is almost 15 kilometers.
In the night, 2:30 at night, he would wake up, get ready, and go and drop me. And as I started to work with it over a period of time, his tolerance changed. I'm not tolerant of me, but his tolerance of thinking that she can go changed. But then we had a different way of saying once you reach there, give me a call before you go into birth. Because he knows that once I'm in birth, I will not be reachable. Now that tolerance as well. Doulas husbands know that when they're at birth, they may not pick up their call, or their children know that they don't pick up their call. And that's okay.
Right.
So this isn't about what is right and wrong. Think of it about getting to know each other so you know how much you can tolerate. But this idea that we must subject our children to discomfort, for what? I mean, that's my question. They will be subject to discomfort because life is never ideal. I'm going to rephrase it, right? Because life is not ideal, we are all pushed to the edge many times. What keeps us going? Knowing that we have fundamentally a foundation of safe and loving family who cares. But if our own parents are challenging us, forget life challenging us, that's just too much. I can walk away from, as a toddler, as a child, I'll be able to walk away to a distance from my parent, knowing that my parent will always be there. But if I send my newborn and leave him thinking, I'm not going to pick you up because you should have tolerance for discomfort, do they have the capacity to deal with that discomfort?
What about the causes of discomfort that we can't support?
Yeah, I can read it. And then he said we feel desperate to fix it is also a problem. Okay, so I'm going to put my personal point of view, and anybody can disagree with it. But the life that we are living today, I'm 50 plus, so I may have seen an easier or simpler life, but in the last 35 years, life has not been simple. All of us are challenged by life right from an early age, whether it is school, whether it's academics, whether it is performance, whether it is ambition, whether it is competitiveness. There is something a little bit beyond what is healthy. For all of us, we felt some kind of challenge in life. Some of us done well, some have not. When we feel these needs to fix problems for people, two things come up for me for you to explore, which I will say. Firstly, what do we think about the other person? Are they capable or not? Because if they are capable, then the challenge is not a problem. So our belief. When we feel the other person is not capable, we must jump and save them. And that happens with children. And I get your point. That is why knowing their competency and ability will help you say what are they capable of or not. So that's one belief. The second one is about, I want to fix that because it wasn't fixed for me. We are organism looking for healing all the time. By trying to fix everybody's problem and getting caught with it, some way we are resonating with our own fixing. And it's an exploration, so it's not a judgment or a diagnosis. We could think about it. What do we think our children can tolerate? So you have two, and both are young. One is 1 and one is 3. Their competencies are different. So you will be talking to each of them or asking them or setting them tasks differently than we.
True.
Likewise, how do we get to know what our children are capable of? And we go back to parent-infant pathways because that's where the connections were made. That's where the competencies were learned. I'll give you a very simple example, very personal. For 15 years, I drove my children everywhere. We didn't have a driver. I liked it that way. And both my children were playing tennis and they didn't go to school. So I would pick them up from school in half day or sometimes at 10 o'clock in the morning and drive them for tennis and then drive them back. And everything was in the car. And then my son learned how to drive. And then one day I was saying, oh my God, I have to go to the market. There's no parking. He said, I'll drive you. So I sat in the car. And for the first time in this, I thought, you kiss it till I go. Oh my God. Till I learned that he could drive better than me. And of course, it was a very teary moment for me. I cried because I couldn't imagine that the boy I held in my arms was actually driving me around. But that's true. And so could he drive that car when he was 6 or those 15 years, even though he was 18? So he only learned how to drive after he was allowed only to drive after 18. And then he went through the whole rigor of learning, practicing, getting a license, applying for a license. There's a due process for competencies. But now he drives everywhere. He has his own car. And for years, last couple of years, he drove a car with a gear shift. And then because he's starting to work, now he drives a car with which is an automatic car. So like I'm telling you, deciding how much you are going is okay cannot be something you can pre-decide.
True.
A sick baby crying is different than a healthy baby crying. You might indulge a sick baby, but not a healthy baby. You might do a certain amount of indulgence at one age, but not at another age. That is why knowing their competency, their ability will help you to get through. And I hope that was a really long answer for a very short question.
Yeah, Neha says makes much sense now.
Yeah. So, children are not, this is the whole one-way street. No, what should I do if they do this? How about we connect with them? In our prenatal program, in our sentient baby program, we say talk to the baby. Here also talk to the baby. Sometimes being able to tell your child, say if you're late in picking up a child, to tell your child that I'm sorry I'm late. I didn't look at the time, or I got... How comfortable are we to accept that we may be wrong, or we have made a mistake, or we have misjudged? But that's also a teaching moment for the child to say it's okay to make a mistake. They don't feel the pressure of having it right all the time. The value of accepting your mistake and making good on it. These are life lessons. So parenting is an interactive process.
Right. I think everyone loves your marriage analogy.
Yes, but it's not always applicable because babies are not fully adults.
True.
Yeah. But it's one of the relationships we value, honestly. And if we kind of say that it's a good analogy for relationship, because do we treat people we care about the way we treat our children?
Right. So Anuradha is saying only if we let our babies give us signals.
Yeah. For what do we need to do that? We need to sit back and look and then pause to say, what indeed are they saying? Because the first cry baby makes at home, 6 people jump and say, baby's crying, he's hungry. And if he cries again after feeding, then you don't have enough milk.
So Neha is asking, is there a program that you are offering for this on parent-infant pathways?
Yes, we will. And it will come up right after we finish our Talking Tuesday series. Just like we are going to put up something from what we've harvested from our previous one. But the delay is at my end.
So yes, we will be. They mentioned it. We will soon be announcing that as well. So we have one course which is coming up, very soon, which kind of summarizes our previous series on, the journey of the embryo and everything around the baby. So that is one aspect that we would be covering in our upcoming course, and definitely parent-infant pathway is something which we have, planned for as well.
Yes.
Great. So if there are no more questions, you can write to us as to how you liked, this Talking Tuesdays. And this was basically more like a build up to what we will be talking about and discussing in our upcoming Talking Tuesdays as well. So do write to us if you have any feedback or comments. And yes, see you next Tuesday. And we will continue to share more information on our upcoming course. So if you're interested in knowing that aspect, do let us know. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.